Welcome everybody to the Toku Portal podcast for Uchuu Sentai KyuuRanger. I am VashieV, and here with me today is...
Decade.
Right.
And today we're talking about Uchuu Sentai KyuuRanger episode 10.
Fuck this episode.
Yeah, that sets the tone pretty well for this podcast. So first we get Showlumpo doing the recap. Then we cut to Kyureno. The Rangers are fighting Governor Mothma, piloting Moraimazu Robo. They finish off the Robo using the Tate Kyutama, which basically is a reflection spell thingy. And it destroys the Robo, but Mothma flies away, sprinkling a substance on Kyureno that remains on the Voyagers as they return to base. Then we cut to Kotaro attempting to henshin using the Ryoken Kyutama. Nothing happens. Champ laughs and says that the Kyutamas choose their user. Kotaro asks why Showlumpo was chosen, and he replies that he was chosen because he's a good boy, and everyone pretty much disagrees, so, yeah, the dynamics have been restored of Showlumpo being generally despised. So then Stinger gets upset at Kotaro and claims that he was just saving him by bringing him to the ship. He didn't have any plans to make him a ranger. And now he demands that he return to his little brother on Earth, so Lucky takes him back in his Voyager. And then most of the Rangers kind of agree that he wasn't ready. Sho wonders where Naga is, and then we cut to him lying unconscious on the ground with a cracked mirror. And then we get the opening, so... yeah, any thoughts?
As soon as I saw him lying down in the cracked mirror, I thought, they're going to think someone attacked him. And then I thought, I've seen this enough times to know that he's just passed out and nobody attacked him. That's all I have to say.
See, when I saw it, I figured, I knew that's what they were going to go for, but my brain went, hey, watch, he used his stupid ability on himself, didn't he? Turns out I was wrong on that, but it was just equally as stupid.
That would have been a better explanation.
Yes, it would have, and it's why I was disappointed that they didn't use it. But with him not being ready and all that, it's like, then why were you letting him attempt to henshin? That to me, that it doesn't make sense. Was it just, hey, let's humor the kid?
Probably because they knew he wasn't using a change one, that it wouldn't work.
The other thing I don't understand is why Lucky took him back. Why didn't Stinger take him back? He's the one who took him to the ship.
Because for some reason, Stinger has to be antagonistic towards everyone, even though he should have tried to bring Kotaro back days ago.
Right. He's like, he brought him and basically left him on the ship getting his hopes up for that he'd be a KyuuRanger, which everybody who watches this Sentai knows how this entire thing was going to play out anyways. But I don't know, it just drove me nuts. It's like, hey, you brought him on here, you take him home, he's your responsibility.
Yeah, it definitely is. Kind of a strange, like, why did they have to use Lucky in this? I don't know. So then after the opening, we get the title, Space 10, The Small Giant, Big Star. So Lucky notices that Kotaro stole a Seiza blaster so he can become Star of Hope. He attempts to take it back, but reverts the Voyager into the Kyutama form, midair. And then Kotaro runs off, Lucky chases him, Kotaro trips and Lucky grabs the blaster, but they just so happen to run into Mothma, who is pleased that the KyuuRangers will be finished soon. Lucky asks Mothma why, and he kinda gets startled to run into him. Showlumpo calls and informs him about Naga being attacked, quote unquote. So then the Oriongo throttles and starts taking off towards the sun at full speed. And Raptor is unable to regain control as it heads to the sun. So then Mothma foolishly announces that as long as he's alive, the ship is under his control. And Lucky's relieved at the simple solution. Star changes. Kotaro fires the Seiza blaster and gets Mothma's attention. The Oguma Kyutama is knocked out of his backpack and into Shishi Red's blaster. He Seiza attacks, which summons the ghost of Supreme Commander Big Bear, and he possesses Kotaro before Mothma retreats. Yeah, quite a lot happening in that short scene.
Okay, fine, I was wrong. He actually died. But the fact that his ghost is back is basically the same thing in concept.
Is there nothing on this ship that will, let anybody know when things are just taken from it? There's like no security protocol on the ship at all. People can just show up and walk off with stuff.
Apparently not for like the Kyutama and stuff.
I mean, he walked off with the Star Changer. How did somebody walk off with one of those without it being noticed?
I'm even wondering if, like, nobody made sure that he put it back and he just slipped it into his bag.
I was like, of all the people to check, he would be the one to check. As with Barry, it was nice to see that, hey, at least it wasn't, some weird ex machina, he's still alive thing. Though I hated the Deno thing with the freaking possessing of him. That, for me, that has only worked in Deno. It should not be used anywhere else but Deno.
Honestly, I would have been fine if that was how he became a KyuuRanger. It's just the bear possessed him.
Right, is instead it fuckered it all up. Can we have a villain who does not explain how that, hey, if you kill me, this'll stop this? Just one villain. Just one villain who doesn't go, hey, here's my master plan and how to stop me.
I guess not.
Nope, not gonna happen. The thing I kind of had a problem with, and it's pretty unlike me to point this kind of stupid stuff out, but I mean, they travel like huge chunks of space in this thing, yet it takes like 20 minutes to get to the sun from Earth. Like,
Well, they're not using the main engines. The ship is just being forced that way. At least, that's how I'm justifying it. The episode can't get any worse.
yeah, exactly. I'm just putting fuel on the fire. So then, let's see, yeah, then we cut back to the Oriongo. They say they have 15 minutes until impact with the sun. Sholompo is convinced that whoever attacked Naga is controlling the ship, and is pretending to be one of them. How he got that idea, I don't know.
You know what? While they were talking to Lucky, Lucky never said, oh hey, I found this guy who's saying he has control of the ship, I'm gonna deal with him. In fact, it's that guy we thought we killed. So Sholompo thinking that someone on the ship attacked Naga and took control isn't far-fetched yet.
No, especially since they basically lost signal. I guess flying too close to the sun cuts signal, so yeah, that's why Lucky wasn't able to tell him. So then the lights go off, and then Sholompo gets a spotlight and some detective jazz music. And then he says the great Detective Sholompo will solve the mystery in the name of Supreme Commander Big Bear. And this is a reference to, I guess for the older audience, to the manga slash anime slash drama series Kindaichi Shonen no Jikembo. And basically his catchphrase is, I'll solve this case in the name of my grandfather, who was a legendary detective. So that's that. Then we cut to Lucky, I'm sure we know what you guys are gonna say about the detective scene, but, what are your thoughts?
My initial thought when I watched that was, Toku Yongo, where he was the, the toy detective, whatever that toy is called, I can't remember. But, seriously, the lights dimming, like when he does the Kula chants, just did not give me hope.
My brain went to Kamen Rider W, because the entire thing was detective themed. But that entire scene, I think, while his reasoning for thinking that is valid with, Lucky, for whatever reason, not calling back to the ship to go, hey, just so you know, this guy's not dead, and you might want to focus on that, because it may be something to do with the ship. So I get the whole locked room scenario, if not for the fact that two people left the ship, so it's not really technically a locked room, because it could have been Lucky, for all they know. And boop, he's off the ship now, haha. It shows weird omnipotence thing of where he's omnipotent, but at the same time a complete idiot drives me up a wall.
I would have been fine with this, like, in the next episode, but I mean, Sholompo was just a badass in the last freaking arc. Like, could he retain some of that coolness for a little bit at least? But it's just like, nope, he's back to being good old loser commander. Yeah. So then we cut to Lucky still confused about the possession. Big Bear enters his body too, and then he exits and enters Kotaro again, and then he seriously recalls how he died. He explains to Lucky that he became a ghost instead of passing on, simply because he can't rest with a man like Sho in charge. I don't blame you, Big Bear.
That doesn't explain how he ended up in a Kyuutama.
No, it doesn't.
It also doesn't explain how Big Bear thinks Sho's an inept commander in the first place. I mean, they've had that Kyuutama for a while, so was he just not paying attention for like the last 5 episodes that they've had the Kyuutama to anything that's going on? It's just, oh nope, now all of a sudden he's got a problem with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's already shown that like with Pegasus, he knows what's going on at all times, from the way it seems and the way they explained it. So logic would dictate that so does Bear. So why doesn't he understand now that, Sholumpo, while he's a gigantic jackass, is essentially a good leader? Because he's done exactly what he was supposed to do as leader. He got the KyuuRangers together. That was the whole thing he was supposed to do first, and he's done it. So I don't understand where the Sholumpo is an idiot thing is coming from.
Let's just give the writer the benefit of the doubt and say that Big Bear was hibernating.
Well, Pegasus never showed that he was sentient, but never showed that he was actively aware of going-ons outside of the Kyuutama while he was inside of it. So until that's shown, they might have a pass on this one.
Yeah, I'll agree with Decade, though. I'm just going to stick with Deno and say he was hibernating.
Yeah, so, Kotaro is more concerned with defeating Mothma. Lucky welcomes his help, but Big Bear is strongly against letting a child fight. Lucky's kind of amused by them fighting back and forth while Big Bear is still inside him. He uses the Ryokan Kyuutama to sniff out something that smells good. And then we cut back to Sholumpo, who has a theory, but that's pretty much all he has. And so he uses Q-Let the chance to find who the culprit is, which is himself. Then we cut back to Lucky eating delicious food at a stand. Big Bear and Kotaro agree that they need to find Mothma, and Lucky asks why Kotaro is so determined. Then we flash back to him promising Jiro, his younger brother, that he'll drive dark matter from Earth and restore hope. And then Mothma happens to turn the corner because he wants to get some food, and is startled again to see Lucky. And this time he runs away, which is definitely a new low for the governors. I mean, first he reveals his plan, and now he's running away from one ranger. Doesn't get much worse for him. Any thoughts on these scenes?
So when Lucky first asked Kotaro for his help, my immediate thought was, oh, he's going to ask Kotaro to lend Bear his body so he can fight. I guess that was giving them too much credit, though, because they weren't going in that direction at all. And then as for Sholumpo deciding, alright, so we'll figure out who among us is the traitor through the Q-Let chance, and then, first off, that was a bad idea, because he's not Lucky. That wouldn't have worked out for him. Second off, as soon as his own Kyuutama came out, everyone that was even remotely believing him should have immediately 180'd and been like, okay, no, he doesn't know what he's doing. And that doesn't happen. Garo is actively believes that what he's saying is truth to the point of being like, well, it must have been you then. They're all idiots except Stinger.
But, well, that's been pointed out to be the case throughout most of this. The only one that's shown that he's not an idiot, aside from Stinger, was Naga. Because he's literally the only one who went, you're not, no, bullshit. But, he's the one who was knocked out this episode. Though, through all of, like, the whole Lucky, just happened to be in the right spot at the right time, this is the kind of luck I have no problem with him having. Because it wasn't necessarily, hey, I'm going to go find him. It's just, hey, food. Granted, that was because of that Kyuutama power.
Yeah, this is definitely the kind of luck I'm okay with him having. It's like back in episode 2 when he threw the dart at the map and said, let's go to that planet there. I'm okay with this kind of luck.
Yeah, and it was kind of amusing seeing Mothma just randomly walking and happening to run into Lucky. He's like, what the hell? So then...
One more thing. To those of you who might be wondering, to draw a comparison about the kind of luck that Lucky has that upsets me is the kind of luck where in episode 1 when he gets out of his ship, and he stretches and accidentally punches two dark matter grunts. It's like, oh, lucky. It's like, no, really, that was actually kind of stupid.
Yeah. But then they kind of balanced it with the meteor strike thing, and that was kind of decent. But yeah, that first one was definitely stupid. So then we cut back to the Oriongo. Sholompo is tied up and confused. And then Champ accuses Stinger of being guilty. Hami points out that Spada's food tasted different, so maybe he's an imposter. And he's devastated because his food is always perfect, according to him. And then he accuses Raptor because she's the pilot. And then Naga abruptly wakes up and recalls how he was practicing smiling while standing precariously on a stool. And he fell over and hit his head.
Hey, Vashie, you remember how you just called Naga the smart one?
Yeah, I know. It's dumb. He's smart on calling bullshit, just not basic common sense. In fairness, he doesn't understand emotions. I'm just going to assume he doesn't understand, like, don't stand on a chair while squatting and smiling because you're going to fall on your ass. Which, I guess that was most of the point of this episode for the kids that watched it at home.
Yeah, and we did see him jump right into the fan almost right into the fan from the crossover. And then in the last arc, when they're running away from the boulder, he keeps running straight, even though there's a passage to the side, and Balance kind of has to pull him. So I guess he is kind of clumsy in some ways, but that just makes his character great. So then Lucky and Big Bear possessed Kotaro track down Mothma, just using luck. The Rangers on the Oriongo are burning up. Champ reminds Balance and Raptor that they're machines and don't feel heat. Stinger asks that they analyze the cause. So Lucky Mothma summons some Indabi, and it's Yoindabi, and his Kyutama's knocked away before he can start change, so we get some fighting out of costume, which is always nice. Raptor uses the Kenbi Kyo Kyutama to find countless mini Mothmas who are controlling the ship. Before Kotaro can help Lucky, Big Bear explains that his failure to stop Sho from being reckless nearly resulted in the destruction of Rebellion. I guess they could have retreated and that wouldn't have ended up killing so many people, I don't know. So Lucky refutes that it's because of Sho that the 9 Rangers are assembled, and that they trust him, despite generally not trusting him. And then Big Bear wonders if he misjudged him, and then we cut straight to Sholompo begging for help, like a little baby. It's kind of funny. Any thoughts on these scenes?
I have one. Why did it take them that long to figure out, hey, maybe we should scan the ship? That is my only gripe with this, aside from, like I was pointing out with the issue with Big Bear. But yeah, that was my biggest issue, is it took that basically right before they, plummeted into the sun to go, hey, maybe we should scan the ship to see if it's something, to actually find out what's wrong with the ship and why we can't steer it, instead of dealing with that dumb detective thing.
Yeah, and the marketing would have been a bit more spread out. Instead, at the end, we just get all the Kyutama marketing. So Kotaro is able to free the Shishi Kyutama, and he uses the Koguma Ursa Minor Kyutama star change into Big Star Koguma Sky Blue. And during the fight, Lucky uses the Tokage Kyutama to climb up a pole and attack. Kotaro uses the Oguma Kyutama to turn giant. And yeah, then they use the All-Star Crash, whatever. Mothma's done for. And no, right before, Sholompo orders Raptor to fire the Orion cannon to destroy the sun. But this cannon doesn't even exist. And then they defeat Mothma, and the Rangers narrowly escape. Then we cut back to the bridge. Big Bear asks if Sho has found the Argo ship. And Sho says they'll find it soon. Then he wishes everyone good luck before, I don't know, does he pass on to the afterlife or go into the Kyutama? It's kinda, does anyone know?
No, it's super unclear. Now, if you don't want to hear us complain about Kotaro, you should probably stop listening, because we're gonna complain about Kotaro a little bit. First off, he doesn't fight like a bear. He fights like a fucking frog. he has a scarf that he takes the two ends and swings them around. They have like ball bearings on the ends that he launches at people to hit them. And in one point when Mothma tried flying away, he like tossed it like a whip to latch onto his leg and pull him in. What part of that sounds like a bear? At what point do you look at a bear and think, yeah, a whip would be a good weapon? Dual-wielding whips. That's our Bear Ranger.
Yeah, that made no sense. It was, to me, it was one of those, like, they went, hey, let's design the weapons for all of our Rangers, and they went, crap, there's not a frog constellation. Hey, let's give it to the bear.
Is that even a... I don't think they're selling that scarf with the ball bearings. I don't know what the hell they're thinking. Really.
If they literally advertised him as some kind of frog ranger, I'd be fine with this. The sky blue color choice would be a little weird, but I think it's a good color. But he's supposed to be Ursa Minor. He is a bear. Why doesn't he have, like, claw dagger weapons?
You know, and then we get the whole Ursa Major thing, which was terrible in its own right. That was, to me, the worst use of Ursa, the idea for a two-part henshin that was way done the wrong way. I expected Ursa Major to be, you know, like adult size or whatnot, or with the way they played it, bear taking over instead of Kotaro, and instead it's just, hey, let's turn him into basically Jay from Kamen Rider.
I'm really hoping that there is still like just a normal adult-sized form with Bear taking over that we just haven't seen yet. Maybe that was just Kotaro using like an attack form rather than another change form, because otherwise this was severely wasted potential on another member of the team.
Yeah, even still, this was not good. So then, just to finish the episode, show explains that the Argo ship is the secret to defeating Dark Matter. So, yeah, he finally reveals that he did know the secret on Earth that Dark Matter's hiding. And then the Rangers welcome Kotaro with open arms. The end.
Hey, you know how we've been introducing the 6 members sooner and sooner? And you know how KyuuRanger was really popular for having 10 Rangers? Why don't we just make a series where we start out with 9? That'll just be our baseline. Yeah, sure. That sounds like a great idea. Oh, and be sure to get that number up to 11 in the first 10 episodes. Like, am I being unreasonable here? What the fuck?
No, because that kind of irritated me with it. It's like, I understand the whole, you know, break the mold with the series thing. Okay, fine, whatever. Let's have it start with 9 members. Hell, let's even put Ryu Commander in it. Fine, I can live with the justification on that. But damn, just damn. Because now what are they going to do? Are we going to have to sit through, you know, 14 or 15 episodes before they get another one? Or are they just going to constantly come up with new ones?
I hope that this is it. I just want this to be the last one.
I can tolerate 1 or 2 more, like the way they did with KyuuRanger, the, you know, little special ones that show up, you know, 10 or 12 episodes between each other just because, like they did with the Spirit ones. I can tolerate them doing something like that with this, but either don't do any more or space them the hell out. For the love of everything, space them the hell out.
Like, the thing about KyuuRanger is that it has the fastest 6-member introduction at like episode 6 or 7. But that's because they were planning on introducing 3 more spaced further out. Like, we see the 2 more of them sooner, but they don't actually join the team until like the second half of the series, where we start getting like the guest 7th member team up, which are some of the best battle sequences in that series, and then the occasional all 10 together.
And 2 of those members were veteran Sentai, and that was awesome, okay? But Kotaro is just not an interesting character. I mean, he's a good actor for his age, but his character is just not interesting, and his form was not interesting at all. Ugh. But I don't know. I guess you gotta sell that second mech toy.
Ooh, but they already introduced Ryu Commander for that.
I would be, like I said, I'd be more tolerable if they started spacing them out. Or, like I said, don't have any more. Like, I can understand, like I said earlier, just like one or two popping up, just like, oh, here's a special one to represent, like Gemini or something, or whatever hell constellation they decide to do. Which I know Gemini is not a change one, but with them basically just trying to shove everything out to sell toys, to me, I think it's potentially going to wreck the series in terms of story, because it's starting to sacrifice story to sell toys, in my opinion. Like, there was enough of this episode that could have been cut and, had different aspects to it filmed in place of it, that I feel that should have been what they did. Like the whole let's play dumb detective on the ship while nobody checks it to see why it's out of control. We're going to waste 12 or 15 minutes on something stupid.
In fact, everything on the Orango could have been cut out. I know they need an excuse to not have the others in while they focused on Kotaro, but none of that added good flavor. None of that added good story to this episode.
No, it just made the note-taking that much more of a pain. I did not enjoy this episode.
It gives me a bad opinion of Garu, who previously was giving off really good vibes. Because this episode just makes him seem like he will blindly follow anyone who sounds confident. Except for Hame.
Right, because, he basically blindly followed Lucky throughout, everything up until now. Just based on the fact of Lucky was confident in what he did, and he punched him once. And then all of a sudden here's, Commander being confident about something stupid, and it's, hey, let's blindly follow this. They're starting, the personalities are starting to take the backseat to the blindly following stuff. Like Hame, who was starting to get a personality, is starting to lose it again because of all the dumb stuff. Even Spada and Raptor is like Imbalance is like they're all great characters individually, in my opinion. They are fantastic characters individually, but their personalities are taking a back seat from what we've shown to let's just blindly do whatever.
Raptor, I might have believed being the one to panic about one of them being a traitor, if they solely focused on her, but not just have everyone start pointing fingers randomly because of her overactive imagination.
Yeah, I could have lived with that, because yes, she's shown to be the only one who has an imagination like that, and it would fit with her freaking out and stuff like that. It's like, but the fact that everybody else was doing it too is like, does nobody have common sense on this ship? And you can't tell me it's all because Lucky wasn't there, that nobody could figure out what to do beyond let's just play detective.
If that's what the lead writer would have you believe, we might as well just stop watching.
Like, this is the second episode that I've watched that I've almost regretted having to do a podcast about it. Because on a whole, to everybody listening, on a whole, I like this series. I really do. This series has a lot of potential. It's just episodes like this, and I forget which one it was that we had the problem with.
Who cares?
I think it was episode 6 that we had the problem. It's like, it's starting to get to where there are too many moments that are just entirely unnecessary to what's going on. Everything, it's that, and rushing everything is starting to get to be a problem.
Oh, I felt that the rushing was a problem. And I would be fine with, little side, conversations that don't necessarily add to the plot or necessarily even go anywhere if they were good flavor. But the entire Orion Go sequence was just bland. It had no heart in it. For lack of a better expression, it was literally just by the numbers, let's do this stupid thing.
To me, it was, hey, they had everything else filmed out, all the Lucky stuff, everything was written, everything was good, and then like, crap, we still need to fill half of the episode. To me, that's what it felt like. Because to me, it didn't fit with the tone and the pacing of what they were trying to do with the introduction of Kotaro. It kept dropping from, well, yes, the parts with Lucky and them, just kept running into the bad guy just out of sheer luck. Well, yes, that was humorous in its own right. Everything involving Kotaro was supposed to be relatively serious. So them constantly jumping back to the Oreango to basically for comedy's sake, it ended up throwing a wrench into the episode, and it screwed up. To me, it screwed up the pacing of it.
Yeah, there is a huge contrast from what we got in the last arc, and I think that's probably what's angered us the most, is that we actually enjoyed the show and it has potential. So don't screw it up. We want to keep making podcasts about this show.
Like you said, like the last arc. I'll just go so far as the introduction of Ryu Commander. That was an instance of this being done, introductions of character being done correctly. It led to, especially with the way they did the cliffhanger, it left you with questions that you wanted answered. It didn't seem forced. Everything fit with the episode, with why the commander was trying to be a KyuuRanger. And all you get out of Kotaro is, oh, he promised his brother he would save the world. Which I get the idea of that, because little kids, especially if you're in a mindset or in a situation that's bad, like Earth is in this series. Like, yeah, you don't typically find people who just kind of roll over. There are a fair amount of people who would, in this situation, would be like Kotaro in the terms of, no, this isn't right. I need to do something about it. But he takes it to, I think, an unhealthy level with the episode, because it goes from being, I'm going to do this because it needs to be done, to, and I'm going to do this on, with the way he kind of worded it, is, I'm going to do this because I have to, for the sake of I made a promise, instead of I'm doing this because it's right. I think that was the issue I had with the introduction of Kotaro as a ranger, is it wasn't so much of I need to do this because it's right, it's I need to do this because I told my little brother I was going to. And there was no proper build-up to his reveal as an entire ranger, as there was with Ryu Commander. Ryu's commanders, to me, felt justified. It felt fulfilling with the way they wrote it and they filmed it, and especially they separated it into 2 episodes. This just seemed like, yeah, here you just go, here you go, have fun, bye, enjoy. It didn't have the same substance as the introduction of Ryu Commander. And I feel if you're going to introduce extra rangers that are designed to be literal, actual rangers, like the extra team members, like typically it's the sixth or seventh ranger, depending on what series you're on, there's usually an amazing backstory of how they became a ranger, everything that built up to it. This was just underwhelming as all hell.
Yeah, well, I think I've said just about everything I need to say, so go ahead and say your thoughts.
Is the lead writer for this series Nobuhiro Mori? Because he was the secondary writer for Go Busters. He was the secondary writer for Kamen Rider O's and Kamen Rider Gaim. He wrote Tokyuger vs. Gaim, that whole special thing, which was pretty good. And if he's the main writer for this series, what I can gather is that this was too ambitious a project for him to take on. It seems like, from what I'm looking at here, he does good with established characters, but it seems like he's having trouble with characters that might be his own creation, with deciding how they are. Because the series is still young, the characters aren't established, and more are being thrown at him faster than he can establish them, whether or not that's by his choice. I think, this might be too ambitious of a project for a writer that hasn't worked on a main series before, and that a veteran should have handled this project.
Any other thoughts?
I think that's it.
Nope.
Well, thank you guys for joining us, and hopefully next week's episode is, a lot better than this one. From VashieV, thank you for joining us. Hope to see you next time.
See you next time.
Yep, thanks for listening.